Good evening, everyone. And please welcome to the stage, Ronak Agarwal.
Thank you, Nathan. You guys are looking good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honorable deans, faculty, advisors, students, friends, and families. What an evening we've got for you. Welcome to being inspired. Welcome to being better. Welcome to challenging mediocrity. I looked up what it means to challenge something. I looked up what mediocrity is. Then, immediately, I looked up what is the opposite of mediocrity. The dictionary opposite of mediocrity is excellence. And tonight, it's all about excellence. Tonight, our four speakers are going to share their stories on how they've achieved excellence. They're going to share their stories on how they've kept moving forward and kept shaking off the dirt. Tonight, they will help us challenge mediocrity. We have to challenge mediocrity within ourselves, even for this event. Would enough people come? Would they care about what we're doing? Would they think we are calling them mediocre? You're not, by the way. We have to step outside of our comfort zone and cancel out all these negative and mediocre thoughts and change it all to excellence. In the other words of one of my close friends and mentors, Mr. Denzel Washington, don't just aspire to make a living, aspire to make a difference. On behalf of Bauer Honors Student Advisory Board, I would like to thank all of you guys, our sponsors, speakers, and supporters. This event would not be possible without our UH faculty, advisors, friends, families, students, and all of our volunteers. Please give them a big round of applause. It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you the Assistant Dean of C.T. Bauer College of Business, Dr. Roger Barascout.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for such a nice introduction. I think that first, I definitely want to congratulate Ronak and the rest of the officers that have made this evening possible. What we see here tonight is really just a fraction of the amount of time that the preparation, logistics, planning, communicating, fundraising, and everything else was entailed to make it happen. So, to all of the officers, congratulations for such an incredible event. I want to be brief so that we can really enjoy our presenters and their wisdom. And before we get into it, one of the things that I want to remind you is how relevant, current, and important the topic of challenging mediocrity is. In fact, the College of Business, if we see the mission and the vision, we want to be an organization that transforms individuals, that transforms organizations, and that transforms society. And we want not just for us as a college, but also for our students, and therefore for our graduates, some of whom I saw already here. But that also means that we have to be pioneers, risk takers, challenge status quo. And as you see at the entrance of Melcher Hall, in those words that are right at the main doors, where it says we have to be game changers. All of these attributes really are aligned with challenging mediocrity. So I am glad that the topic is also aligned with who we are and who we want our students to be. Finally, I want to extend a warm welcome to Jennifer, to Adam, Joey, and Anne for giving us their time today and for sharing their wisdom. You are leaders that we look up to, and tonight I am sure that we will be inspired by. And I hope that as we learn from you, even for all of our students as well, we get motivated enough to be decisive about becoming agents of change. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful message, Dr. Barascout. Now let's get ready to rumble. To introduce our first speaker of the night, I would like to introduce an officer of the Bauer Honors Student Advisory Board. Please welcome to the stage, Diana Maldonado.
Thank you, Ronak. Good evening, everyone. Living out dreams is an essential part of challenging mediocrity, but even more essential is embracing life and all of its challenges in the context of that dream. When you think of putt-putt or mini-golf, you think of a variety of rounds of golf, each representing their own unique difficulties and challenges. Each hole is synonymous with a new life situation you will have to navigate to achieve the ultimate hole-in-one in fulfilling your dreams. I'm honored to introduce our first speaker, Adam Sahmel, an expert in mini golf who has made a hole-in-one not only on the putt-putt green, but also in life, despite being born with cerebral palsy. He has not only overcome adversity, but he's a great example of what it means to be resilient. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Adam Sahmel.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here and a part of this wonderful event. I'm also a fellow Bauer graduate of the MBA program back in, I guess, '08. I guess I'm getting too old. Yes, I play competitive putt-putt golf. Who knew there was such a thing? In fact, my family is out here tonight because they're at the national tournament in Augusta. So you can see that putt-putt's very important to us and the family. I was born with CP as a result of a traumatic birth, and they diagnosed me at the age of 4, I think. I can't recall that far back. But my parents always treated me like normal, or a normal kid. I loved sports. I think I stuck with the ball until I was like 8 years old. And playing catch with Dad, playing catch with my brother was very important to us. And about the age of 12, I discovered putt-putt golf at a Sunday school activity. It was the first sport that I could play against my brother, my dad, and other able-bodied folks. So I loved it. Even though I wasn't very good at it, I still loved it. Talking to you about mediocrity, putt-putt par is 36. My first tournament round, I think I shot 64. I loved every second of it. So I made my dad drive and take me back every week from there on out to the local tournament. And then I just learned how to get better and better, drafted my own unique stroke, which you can probably tell I can't use my right hand. So I putt one-handed. I used to putt with, for a walker standing up, but now I can only putt with the chair. But it's been, sorry. But sports has always been part of my life. Growing up, I love baseball. The Astros were my favorite team. And I'm sorry. Who knows the score tonight? I don't even know. But it was always my dream to work in sports. That's why I went to school at UT. Sorry about that. But I also went to Campbell MBA, and that led to an internship with the Astros, which was a dream come true but I realized that the days were very, very long, very long. Baseball is a tough sport. can I get some water? Sorry about that. But back to the putt-putt golf, as I learned how to overcome or use my limitations to sorry. CP rocks. That's one thing I've learned with the CP, is just to embrace it. Because if you try to fight it, you're never going to get anywhere. So I've learned to accept it, use it as a benefit to inspire others, to strengthen me as a person. And that's why I enjoy putt-putt so much, because I wanted to be a part of an athletic, able-bodied event. And I knew that I was accepted into that arena because my first national tournament I fell, and everyone came running except for my dad. And actually the tournament director got mad at my dad for not coming. And then he realized, you know what, he's a big boy, he can get up himself and, you know, continue playing. They just looked at me like, why'd you do that? And I had to ask for help, which is another thing that I've learned to do, is when I need help, ask for it. And that's a big part of succeeding. Like today, tying shoes, not my thing. But I'm willing to ask for other people to tie the shoes sometimes. But back in 2008 is when I won my national championship in doubles, which was amazing, dream come true. Especially, I was the first one in the family, and I never let Dad and Wade forget about it either. So, but putt-putt in sports has been a big part of my life, as you can tell. And it's given me relationships that I can never even think of. I'm very thankful for the relationships that I have through putt-putt and in sports. My time with the Astros eventually led to me getting my current job now as a payroll manager. I had no idea at the time that would lead to this, but it turned out to be the perfect job for me. And building relationships along the way is so important. And I couldn't make it through this CP life without friends, family, even though they are in Georgia right now. And not playing very well either, by the way. Yeah, they're kind of struggling. I'd be there too, but I'd rather be here. One last thing that I can say again is embrace, when you think of excelling, everyone says concentrate on your strengths, focus on what you do best. But I think I want y'all to know, if you concentrate on or at least be aware of your limitations and, difficulties, you can turn those limitations into a benefit that is probably going to exceed your strengths or even strengthen your strengths. And that's been the story of my life, is, despite everything, and I feel like I'm normal. So, because this is all I know, I've learned how to do stuff. My motto is be smarter than the task. Except when you're not smarter, ask for help. And like shoelaces. But I like to think that I am pretty smart and can find a way to do stuff, including like a hole in one. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful advice. Now, to introduce our next speaker, I would like to call on one of our officers of the Bauer Honor Student Advisory Board. Please welcome Jasmine Saenz.
Thank you, Veena, and good evening. We've all heard the term location, location, location in real estate. That's just how it works. You find the best location, you build on it, and then you either sell it or rent it out. That's the business of real estate, or so we thought. Our next speaker's approach is something quite different. She emphasizes people, 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 with an extreme focus on the team around her and the tenacity of always wanting to improve and be the best version of herself. Our next speaker has taken the real estate game to the highest level. Having done over $1.5 billion, yes, I said billion, in real estate transaction, Jennifer Campbell has truly gone above and beyond. I can't wait to hear what she has to say and how she has challenged mediocrity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next speaker, Ms. Jennifer Campbell.
One of the things I wanted to start out with was just telling you as students that success is not a linear path. Kind of just to start with, how many of you actually know what an investment broker is? That's a lot more than I thought. So I specialize in commercial real estate in assets that are $20 million and above. But when I first started, I had no idea what it meant. And when I tell clients, colleagues, a little bit about what we do, I describe it as an advisory role to help guide owners in a successful disposition of their asset. It's my job to know the economy, to know the job drivers, other real estate transactions, who the players are, understand the financial modeling, which is particularly important in today's market. And, I'll simplify it as describing it as trading a bond with a rooftop. To my friends and to my family, they think of me as an overpaid problem solver. In fact, when I was growing up, my parents always told people I was either going to be a hostage negotiator or an attorney because I love to argue. But that's not where I started. So I actually went to a magnet school that specialized in math and science. And somewhere along the line, I picked up this love for music. I loved Broadway. I wrote all these lovely stories about how I was going to run away and be the next big Broadway star. And so when it came time to applying for schools, I looked and I applied for science, and I applied for music. And I ended up having very, very high scholarships for music. And I looked at my parents and went, so I'm going to go to school for music? And I come from a family of doctors, lawyers, and engineers, and I just about broke their brain. So fast forward a little bit, I ended up singing professionally off Broadway and in opera for 13 years. I sang overseas, I sang at Carnegie Hall, I sang in Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago, I sang with Chicago Lyric. And in fact, later I came back and sang with HDO in the symphony here. I got to a point, I had some personal challenges come up, and it impacted my health. I ended up getting Crohn's disease. And I was in the hospital for 2 months and accrued about $100,000 worth of debt. And I looked at my parents because I was about ready to go for my master's, which was about another $150,000 investment. And I was going, well, what am I doing? This seems like a horrible plan. I'm gonna go pursue a master's. I was a Wagnerian, so I was a very specialty voice type that didn't really mature until their early 40s, so today. And I'm gonna go take out all this money, I'm gonna pursue a master's, and what am I gonna get at the end of the day? How am I gonna make this work? And my father looks at me very practically and he's like, go get an MBA. What? Okay. And so I submitted my application to the University of Houston with 3 days to spare. And I found out within a couple of days that I got accepted. And now I had to come up with a plan. I had to relocate myself from Chicago to Houston and figure out what I was going to do next. And early into the process, I was very lucky to stumble upon John Walsh, who ran the real estate program. And he looked at me 15 minutes into the meeting and was like, you're gonna be a broker. I didn't know what that meant, but I didn't think I wanted to do that. Everybody, when they start, wants to go into development, and that seemed sexy and exciting. And he's like, you're gonna be a broker. We're gonna give you this internship, it's a 6-week internship. And it's gonna suck, and you're gonna do it. And maybe you'll learn something, but you're gonna make some really good connections. I need you to do this. And I got lucky enough. He was right, it sucked. And the guy that I was partnered with was like, you don't belong in this side. It was for leasing, for CBRE, for the Memorial Herman platform. And he's like, you should go just walk around. You're gonna get paid regardless of whether or not you're here. Go meet people. And so I went over to Trammell, who specialized in development, and I was like, I wanna do what you guys do. And they're like, I mean, there's a chair, sit down and figure it out. So I sat down and, worked, went through my summer. The project that I was on continued, and so they kept me on. But I kind of saw that they were potentially going to be pigeonholing me because I'm a female. And it looked like I was going to be put in an operation manager role, which is basically a nice word for an admin. And that didn't excite me. So I went back to the guy that I first started with and had lunch with him, and I was like, I don't think this is gonna work. So who should I talk to? He's like, you really should go talk to Hal. He's a nerd just like you. And I'd seen Hal at the gym. He and I both were at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. We frequently rode the elevator up together at 6:30 in the morning to the office. And I thought, I'll go do that. So I go and knock on his door, and I was like, hi, I'm Jed. I'm interning with Trammell, and I'd love to learn what it is you do. Now, I didn't know he was Hal Holliday, who's the H of HFF. And for those that are not in real estate, it's a really big deal. So I sat down with him, and he's like, yeah, come on, kid. Let's go sit and have some coffee. And I learned about his wife, who was a jazz dancer, and he drove on the side British racing cars, and we had a lot in common. And at the end of it, he's like, I'm gonna make a call. And I was like, I don't really know what that means, but okay. And he called upstairs and said, she's mine, set her down, she starts Monday. And I went downstairs and worked for him for the next 9 months while I was finishing my MBA. It was an amazing experience. At no point did he ever treat me like a student. I attended all the meetings he attended. I underwrote the billions of dollars of deals that he was putting together on the debt and equity side. It was such a phenomenal experience. But at the end of that, I got done, and they'd hit a hiring freeze. He was like, don't worry, kid, I got you. He made 11 calls and 11 job offers within a week. Amazing, amazing guy to go stumble into his office. So, fast forward, one of the things that I thought about, why is it that I do well in this industry? And I stumbled on this TED Talk about multi-potentialites. And I went, well, that's interesting. I want to learn about that. So I listened to the TED Talk, and the woman speaks about how there's people in life that wander around and are attracted to different things to learn about and are excited about multiple different ways and don't necessarily end up at the same place, and that's okay. We don't have to have this mindset that there is one path and you can have one interest and you must be a specialist. There are people who should do that as well, and that's a great path for them. But it explains why I never went down that path. So we have 3 superpowers. The first one being idea synthesis. The second one being rapid learning. When we get interested in a subject, we're going to do everything we can to read everything about it and learn as much as we possibly can, as quickly as we can. And the third is adaptability. And one of the things that is most crucial in my industry is adaptability. No day is ever going to be the same. And that's something that excites me. No deal is ever going to be the same. Everything is going to be a new challenge. You're never going to see anything the same from start to finish, ever. You will never be a master. And something that was going to challenge me on a daily basis was pretty exciting. So, fast forward again a couple of years, I got in, I ended up switching companies to IPA and starting a team. And one of the things that I knew about myself was, yes, I'm good at learning, and yes, I learn very quickly, but you really need to surround yourself with a team. And you want to have as many smart people around you to make you better. You also need some that are specialists. And working together to be able to create the best product for your client, for whomever. And so I found this team that also had a similar mindset. And so they asked me to start the Houston office. But one of the things that they always did for their people was something called a Kolbe test, K-O-L-B-E. And it's different than a personality test, but there's 4 different components. The 3 most important components for brokers are their ability to fact find, their quick start, so how quickly you're going to start doing something versus sitting back and analyzing, and then your follow-through. And their idea was always to try to be a balanced team. While the fact finding was exceptionally important, we always want high fact finding. The other skills you wanted to be able to average out and end up having balance across the team, because that's just going to make the strongest team possible. So we started this team. We grew to 10 people. We're 30 across the state. And it's just been an exciting journey to be a part of. And I actually spoke at the graduate real estate program, which is why I was asked to speak here, because again, this was just this team Moneyball perspective. And I also interview a lot of people. I typically interview about 100 people a year. And part of that interview process, I've got basically 5 points that I want to communicate to these new people. It's a really challenging industry where you have the opportunity to get paid like a professional athlete without a whole lot of marketable skill. There's also a very high failure rate. And so aligning yourself with the right mentor is the most important thing to do. You really want to have somebody that matches your communication styles, especially when they're teaching, and you want somebody that's going to match your energy. So the 5 things I tell these new hires is pick the right mentor, but fail early and often. Find somewhere that you can be safe to fail, because the greatest thing you can do is fail and learn something. I would rather see you fail than put yourself in situations where you're constantly successful. Work on your weaknesses, know what they are, communicate about them, and get better. Because it's just going to be able to strengthen you in the long run. Find that mentor that challenges you. Don't allow them to accept whatever it is you're producing. Always try to do better, figure out what you can do to get to that next level. Understand how you learn, and make sure you communicate that with your mentor. The faster you learn, the faster you succeed. There's that old adage of 10,000 hours before you actually become any kind of expert. Well, you're never going to be an expert in commercial real estate, but I also tell them you're basically going to be worthless for me for the first 3 years, because that's about what it takes to get to those 10,000 hours. Embrace the suck. It's okay. The other thing that I ask is a little bit unusual. While we are a corporate setting, I want them to be their authentic self. I want them to show up. I am weird, I am loud. If you come in early, I am absolutely singing. That's just who I am. And I ask that of my juniors as well. Just to embrace everything that is about them, that makes them unique. Find the things that make you passionate. Go down those curiosity rabbit holes, because you never know where they're going to lead you. So, thank you.
Speech, Ms. Campbell, truly an inspiration to us all. There are actually a lot of students out there today that are interested in real estate, so which characteristic traits do you suggest that we develop to make it more about the people instead of the location?
I think, as I touched on, I mean, the most important thing that you can do is find a mentor that believes you and understands what it is you're looking to do. And that's a conversation that I have with every junior that begins with me, whether they're an analyst, an admin, our operation director, or a broker. Where do you want to go? And again, we understand that this may change as we progress, but let's make sure that we evaluate that on a quarterly, semi-annually basis so that we're putting you in the right position to learn the things you need to learn to get to that.
Thank you for the wonderful advice. Ladies and gentlemen, please one more round of applause for Ms. Jacob. Now, to introduce our next speaker, I'd like to call on an officer from the Bauer Honor Student Advisory Board. Please welcome Mr. Kavi Cole.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good evening, everybody. How are we doing tonight? Each morning, many of us start the day with some form of caffeine, whether it's a cup of tea, a nice latte from Starbucks, or a good old-fashioned cup of joe. Our next speaker asks us the hard questions about our being. Why do we do what we do? Why are we here today? Why? When we add the Y to a cup of joe, you get a cup of Joey. Get it? Joe is spelled J-O-E, add the Y. Forget it, there's a reason why I'm doing finance and not stand-up. Our next speaker, Joey Sanchez, has taken it upon himself to ask people the question, why? Let's be inspired by him this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Joey Sanchez.
How are you doing? You doing good? All right. Let me ask you a question. For you, why are you here tonight?
To learn more about
that. Hold on to that later. All right, good. So, to learn some more. All right. Well, I want you guys all to ask, why are you here tonight? Look at yourselves. Why did you show up? Look inside yourself right now. I'll tell you exactly where I was about an hour and a half ago. I was at my son's first school, what is it called, when you meet the teachers, and open house. Yeah, I was just there. But I wasn't there. I wasn't in the moment. And I want you guys to be in the moment right now, okay? So, take an inventory of everything you're thinking about, and I want you to park it. And I want you to be here with me for the next 10 minutes. Actually, you know what? I want you to look to your right and to your left, and make eye contact with somebody, okay? Yeah, it might be your friends. Ask them, or not now, but think about it. Why are they here? Well, I think you're all here to challenge mediocrity, right? Woo! I agree. Now, I want you to think about for the next 10 minutes. I want you to hold that person accountable that you just looked into their eyes. I want you to hold them accountable for why they're here and why you're here. Okay, because for the next 10 minutes, I want to share with you my intention. My intention is to share with you my why, my purpose for being, and how that works when connecting with one another. And better yet, how it works when you're networking with one another. Because I know that's a scary world out there. I know that networking is uncomfortable, and it really just, you want to hide into that corner. But it really doesn't have to be if you're present. It really doesn't have to be if you're authentic. It really doesn't have to be if you understand their why. So I want to share that with you tonight. And my name is Joey Sanchez. I am a Senior Director of Ecosystems at the ION, which is in the middle of Midtown Houston. But more importantly, I host a weekly coffee meetup called Cup of Joe. Do you know what the difference between a cup of Joe and a cup of Joey is? It's the why! All right, you guys got it. All right, that's what I was hoping you would say. All right, so if, like, why did you show up tonight? I ask that on a weekly basis. The first thing I say to Ronak as he comes through the door, hey man, how's it going? Why'd you show up today? I want to create an event called Challenging Mediocrity. I want 300 people to be here. Why not 400? I think we did that tonight. Sold out. So let's give Ronak a round of applause. But you know what the why is? It's your purpose. Have you ever sat in that? I'm asking you to do that right now as we speak. What is your purpose? Really contemplate that, because when you go forward after college, I'm telling you, there's no more rules. Success isn't if you get the grade. Success isn't if you graduate. There is no more rules. It's literally up to you. You have to be intentional. You have to set your own goals. And then those goals are literally just going to be mile markers in your life from then on out. So set your purpose now. Don't wait for somebody else to choose your purpose. I can guarantee you, half of you in the room that are about to graduate are going to go into a job that you hate. Yeah? Because you don't have your purpose and you don't know why you're doing what you do. Okay? That is, I don't know if it's a fact. I can't say it's a fact. But I'm pretty sure that it would happen, because it happened to me. I started out my career fresh out of college, so excited, got my corporate big boy job, and they put me in accounts receivable. Yeah, accounting. I like to talk to people. You know what accountants don't like to do? Talk to people. I like to connect people. That's what I love to do. I love to connect one another, but I found out how to do that. Because I found out how to connect myself to another person. You become relatable. How do you become relatable? You also have to become authentic. I am me, and that's actually a really awesome place to be. You are you, and that is the superpower that you were given, so use it. That is literally your why. Your why is your purpose. It's your meaning for existence. And see, I was lucky enough to find that, but not know what it was. How many of you have done something amazing in your life? Raise your hand. How many of you have done something already? Raise your hands, guys. Get them up. Everybody's done something amazing in your life. That's how you go find out what your why is. When you're not thinking about it and you're just in that zone, whether you're playing an instrument, you're singing, it sounds amazing. Playing putt-putt, holy shit, like, I'm sorry. Like, challenging mediocrity is only what you base mediocrity off of, okay? And that's intent, that's your purpose, that's where you gotta go. I was very, very fortunate in my life because my dad came over here from Cuba. How many of you can say you're a first-generation immigrant? That's right, that's U of H for you right there, that's beautiful stuff. Let's give them all a round of applause. Man, to think about the troubles your parents went through, for you to sit in this room and say challenging mediocrity, they'd be like, Mija, I challenged mediocrity because I floated across the sea, you know, like, yes, I know grandma, like, I got you. Like, but that's what it's all about. It's like, I had that in my DNA, and I saw that my dad challenging mediocrity in his every day. So those who just raised your hand, you're lucky. You had a first row seat. And now it's up to you to set the bar higher. That ain't easy. You're talking about, if you have an X and Y coordinate, I want you to go on that same trajectory, okay? So dad came over here, nothing, 12 years old, you know, got a degree, then got a job. I gotta do more, I gotta do better. That's where my purpose comes from. That comes from my dad. And networking is just a means to the end. It's connecting with human beings so that you can progress in your career, in your future. But if you don't know that purpose, you're gonna be a little lost. So, do you want to try this out? You sure?
Sure.
All right. So, you remember me when I'm up here? Why were you here?
So I said to know more about y'all, but I want to change my answer.
Let's hear it.
Right, so the cliche is challenging mediocrity, but more of to find my purpose. To find my own purpose.
Let's give him more. Did you define his purpose? That's what's up. How are you going to do that?
Exploring myself, exploring my strengths and weaknesses, and seeing what I really enjoy to do. Like you said, you like to talk with people and connect with people. That's something I like doing, just like being able to help others succeed. So I want to find a way to do that.
That's awesome. You want to help people too? I want to help you. After this, let's talk. We're going to be best friends. Guys, let's give him a round of applause. He's got a great purpose here. I wanted you to see how easy. He changed his purpose like in 2 seconds. And that's okay. Because sometimes you don't know what your purpose is until you're in it. Until you're in the stuff. But this has always been kind of my thing. I started I went to Jacksonville University, and I wanted to connect with others, so I created a hand symbol. Can you guys give me the hand symbol for U of H? All right, go Cougs. So I went to Jacksonville University, and I found that JU had no hand symbol. So can you guys give me the I love you sign in the American Sign Language? And then trace the J and the U? Yeah, JU, that's what's up. You guys gotta check it out. But other than that, connection doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop with your university. It's also personal. That connection, you can have that anytime, any day. And I was lucky enough, when I was in college, I went up to a nice young lady and I said, hey, my name is Joey, I'm from Texas. And she goes, me too. I go, what part? I'm from Houston. She goes, wow, me too. I go, we should talk more. We should get married. And go figure, 3 years later, we got married. We moved back to Houston because that was our home. And we were relatable, we were able to be together. And that's the most meaningful relationship in my life, is my significant other. The first relationship is with yourself. The second is with your significant others. Think about who you're going to choose, especially as you exit college. It matters, and it's a big, lifelong relationship. And so we moved back to Houston in 2011, and we started our life. And we started walking down the streets of Houston. And we noticed there was a little sign on the concrete, okay? And these signs were speaking to us. They were telling what street names they were. Have you guys ever seen these signs? Have you ever noticed the little things in life? When they say stop and smell the roses, that's the cliche. Well, guess what? In Houston, we have blue and white tile street signs. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. They've been there since 1910, and nobody's paid attention to them. Literally walking, going about your day without noticing the beauty amongst everyday life. I wasn't present. I was just doing. And that's what you hear when you hear someone say, my career, I just punch a clock, I just commute in, and I do, it's because they're not present. And so the Blue Tile Project was born in 2015. We started to document each blue tile street sign in the city of Houston. We asked all of our friends, we created an Instagram account, bluetileproject.com, and 4,000 street signs came in. And the community started to come together because we were relatable. And what was our purpose? It was to preserve the Houston history. I believe in a small thing of the networking of past, present, and future, okay? You have to know your past in order to be present. Remember what I said to my wife? Hey, I'm from Texas. Me too. Oh, let's get married. That's what it's all about. It's that knowing each other's past. Watch, it's gonna happen tonight. When you meet somebody new, you're gonna say, oh, well, what part of Houston are you from? Oh my gosh, Friendswood. I'm from Sugar Land. Great to meet you. That happens. That's the past, so that you can be present with one another. Now, talking about present, I want to let you guys know today. This morning, absolute true story. I went to a coffee shop for a meeting, a cup of Joey, remember? And I ran out of gas. My car. I got back in my car, turned the ignition, and I had no gas in my tank. None, zero. Couldn't even move. And I thought that was pretty interesting that I've spent the last year and a half working on Cup of Joey, this thing that gives me so much energy, so much passion, so much purpose. But today, my tank was empty. And I'm talking metaphorically, talking about my car's tank. But I realized I had to get a gallon of gas from the gas station. So I walked about 11 minutes to the gas station, purchased a canister, filled it up, brought it back, poured in the gas, and turned on my car. And I had a moment, and I want to share it with you because I believe in Houston. And I know you do too, because you're here in Houston right now with me. I think you all are present. You've cleared your mind. Houston is an amazing city. Let's get a whoop for that. Hell yeah. You want to know why it's an amazing city? Because I walked 11 minutes to go get a gallon of gasoline, to get into my car, to go back to that and fill it up. And I took that canister and I actually wrote a note on it. And I gave it to the clerk and I said, "Sir, how long have you been here?" "Oh, 22 years, I've worked at this gas station." "Wow, thank you so much." Because I realized at that moment, in this moment, because I was present this morning, I was empty, but I was present. I was able to see that gasoline that was produced by our oil majors, that everyone thinks outside in the world that, it's just oil and gas, it's dirty oil and gas. It gets me where I need to go to be with the people I want to be with. It gets me from A to B. So I wrote a little note on that canister and I said, the energy capital of the world, it got me where I am and where I want to go. And when I'm full, it's time to share. And so I've been reflecting on this all day because I feel full right now with this full room. And I appreciate you guys so much because we're talking about challenging mediocrity, but it's not really about us speaking to you, it's about you speaking to yourself. I believe in Houston so much that 2036, where are you going to be in 2036? Does anybody know? Here in Houston. Here in Houston. All right. And then how about 2026? That's only 4 years away. You're going to be here, you may be graduating. You know who else will be here? The world. We won the World Cup bid for 2026, so I'm so excited about that. But by the time they get here, I want them to realize that the 400 of you have your purpose, have your existence, and this is why you're here today, is to move forward into the future and share with those who come to see Houston for the first time why we exist as a community. What is our collective purpose? You hear it inside of the marketing at U of H. I was watching the banners. To be a game changer, to be. I want you to come up with your purpose tonight and say, I plan to be a connector. I plan to be a mini golfer. I plan to be a real estate agent that changes the world, right? That is your only way you're going to survive your career, is if you set your intention and then you share your intention. And I think I shared with you at the beginning, my intention for tonight was how to network, how to connect. It's by knowing yourself. If you don't know yourself, the person across from you will never hear you. They will never understand you. You have to talk to yourself first and be you. Do not be anybody else. Do not allow anybody else tell you where to go, what to do, how to be. Because networking won't work. Connections won't work. It's just not possible. I started Cup of Joey 70 weeks ago, and it's been every week since. Unrelentless, unwavering, every week. What happened 70 weeks ago? Does anybody remember where we were? In COVID? Delta? Omicron? These words come up, right? I was dying inside. My existence is to connect people to a more purposeful future. And I couldn't do it. Nobody was allowing me to talk to other people in person. Being in person is authentic. You can tell if someone's being fake, not on a Zoom call. That's not easy. in person, you're there. You're present. Okay? So be present. Be authentic. Be you. And the connections are easy. The networking is simple. And so take that. Take a moment, even if it's 20 seconds, and define yourself to yourself. Don't end up empty. I had a coffee shop. It was in the Heights, it wasn't bad. But you know, like don't be empty. Be full. And so I ask you guys, we're here because we're here to challenge mediocrity. Not me, we. So look at each other once again. Look at that person next to you. And realize they have a why. Okay? Realize that they're here to challenge mediocrity. Realize that they matter. You matter. And our future matters together. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for the wonderful advice, Joey. Now to introduce our next speaker, I would like to call on an officer of the Bauer Honor Student Advisory Board. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Veena Vinod.
Adversity. It is quite typical to take the back seat in the easy road, especially if you're not surrounded by a great support system. Our next speaker has taken it upon herself to assist others wherever she can. Her goal of making people feel heard and wanted has touched the hearts of many. Guerra is a mom, a widow, a sister, a daughter, and a friend that loves spending time with people. She spends countless hours working hard to make sure that economically disadvantaged children in Houston don't go a day without access to books. Guerra's caring nature also can be seen through her actions of wanting to help the people in her community feel heard, wanted, and just a little bit special. By taking the time to simply ask, "What's your name?" Guerra has touched the hearts of many. She's a recently retired teacher and the board president of Books Between Kids. Please be ready to be touched by her amazing story. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me again in giving a warm welcome to Ms. Guerra.
I don't know if I can live up to that. Thank you. And I did want to just thank the entire, if I get the acronym correctly, BHSAB for inviting me here today. My friends said we all greeted them at the parking lot and you carried us all the way and y'all have done an incredible job. Thank you so much. So I am Guerra, and I am one of billions, I believe billions, that challenge mediocrity. And I believe that you are out there challenging mediocrity as well, and that many of you don't even know that you're doing it. I also just want to say, I'm going to follow a speech. They all seem so comfortable. I feel so honored to be with those three people tonight. I just have to give you, I didn't know what to expect, and I am just my heart is just beaming. So mediocrity in the business world essentially means that there is a culture that prioritizes safe, neutral, and cliche ideas. Basically, just doing what everybody else does. In our personal lives, it's the same. It's so easy for us to stay safe, stay in the same job, hang out with the same people, follow the same routine, day in and day out. None of this is bad, but why not be daring? Why not step out of your comfort zone, and why not take risks, especially when it can encourage others? Any risk we take, no matter how large or how small, challenges mediocrity. And when I think about what this is meaning to me right here and right now, I have to admit, y'all, I'm challenging myself. I will not be the most eloquent speaker you will ever hear. I will fumble my words, and some of you will wonder about my accent. It's Midwestern if you're ready. So I'm going to challenge myself, and hopefully when this is over, you will feel that you can challenge yourself as well, or another person, or a situation around you. So why am I doing this? Because I've been asked. I think to challenge mediocrity, we become improved people as we find ways to show up and participate. So I'm going to thank you in advance for sharing your time and your space to let me challenge myself while you support me. So Ronak and I met at a book celebration that was sponsored by Books Between Kids. The mission of Books Between Kids is to get books to underserved children ages 0 through 5th grade so they can build home libraries. Books Between Kids challenges mediocrity in schools and communities, offering books to children, along with others who are challenging mediocrity by supplying food, clothing, and housing. Now, I am not going to go through all the statistics to show how many children, just in our Houston area alone, do not have books. But I am going to tell you why Books Between Kids is trying to change that. They are giving kids a resource to improve their literacy skills and encourage the love of reading. They are giving kids a sense of ownership, and they are letting kids know that someone cares. Books Between Kids was started by 2 moms that saw a need and worked hard to bring their idea to fruition. They persevered through countless planning meetings, powered through people ignoring emails and phone calls. They took risks to ask their friends to believe in their cause. And when it was time, they asked those same friends to volunteer as a semi-trailer full of over 1,000 books, it was thousands of books, I don't know how many it was, arrived and needed to be sorted and boxed up. This year, Books Between Kids is celebrating its 10th anniversary and has given away over 2.3 million books. And just last year, that was serving 45,000 kids, and we will do it again this year. I'm grateful to be the board president of an organization that works to fill book deserts across Houston by offering resources to create equity among our city's kids. I recently retired after 31 years as a Montessori teacher, teaching 3 to 6-year-olds. A large part of my training was to observe the child. Dr. Maria Montessori believed that if we followed the child, they would be, here's the fumble. She believed that if we followed the child, we will be led to offer an environment where they will learn. And in process, hopefully they will love learning. She was a trailblazer, challenging mediocrity in the early 1900s, teaching children that others deemed unruly and unteachable. Over 100 years later, her method is still used today. So day in and day out, over those 31 years, I would observe my children in my classroom, and I would find ways to meet their needs, along with other educators. And I salute all the educators of every age group, of every child, of every adult out there. Thank you all for educating. We have been a part of some incredible experiences as children overcame some incredible challenges. So there's too many stories, of course, for me to tell you, but I did pick 2. So years ago, I met a young man, and he was really struggling with reading. He was not my student, but his mother's friend observed that he needed help, and so she reached out to me. One of his favorite things to do was play with Lego. And if you've ever had an opportunity to work with or play with Lego, you know that the instructions are all in pictures. I took the pictures away, and I wrote out step-by-step instructions in basic phonetic sentences, keeping them as simple as I could. At first, he was very frustrated with me and frustrated that he didn't have the pictures because he didn't believe he could read. And so I sat with this young man for many, many weeks, and we built many, many Legos, and we worked on his reading while we had fun and were learning all at the same time. There was another little guy in my life, and he needed to go to occupational therapy. I could not stand by waiting for therapy to begin and watch him be left behind. He was afraid to walk down the steps, so he would never follow his friends out to the playground equipment. It may not seem like that's such a big deal, but when I would watch his little face and see how he appeared to feel about being left out at such a young age, I did not want that to be the impression that he had of life. Think of your early experiences and how they guided you or misguided you with your decisions. Did you ever wish that someone would have stepped up for you? His 3-year-old muscles were not strong enough. He would have to sit on his bottom and scoot down the steps if he didn't have help. So in our classroom, I set up an obstacle course, which just included 2 little steps up and 2 little steps down. Everyone in the class loved the activity and could do it, except my little guy. I was able to encourage him while I held his hand. I could feel him literally trembling when he would have to go down those 2 steps. And week after week, we worked on it. If I wasn't around to hold his hand, he would go up the little step, and then he'd sit there, and then he'd scoot down on his bottom. Eventually, he realized there was a shelf right next to him, and that he could hold on to that. The class and I were constantly cheering him on to try the steps without holding on to anything. So within time, I moved that shelf, and slowly, I mean very, very slowly, he started to trust himself. And the day he went down those 2 steps without any help, he yelled as loud as he could, "I did it!" And the entire class just burst out cheering for him. He came running across the room to me with the biggest smile you could ever imagine, and a smile that I will never forget. Later, that same little guy struggled with reading when he was 5, and I was able to remind him about that challenge that he overcame, and he eventually became an awesome reader. He's now 10. I just saw him this last weekend, and he still remembers those days in my classroom. I'm not saying that I did anything super extraordinary with these 2 children, but what I do know is that by observing them, creating a safe place, and being a cheerleader, they were able to overcome obstacles. So another area where I've been challenging mediocrity has been on my journey as a widow. Some of you may feel this is a stretch, but with the death of my husband, my life could have made a turn for the worse. Unfortunately, for many, the experience of the significant loss can cause people to lose their luster for life and settle into very sheltered worlds. Not that that's necessarily bad, but I think most of us can agree it's probably not the healthiest choice. I, like you, have had multiple losses in my life. Some hit us harder than others. After Lewis's death, I could see where I could easily be drawn into just existing. Thankfully, I had my daughter, and I wanted to be present for her. So that helped. When I looked up the definition for mediocre for this event, it was really depressing. Words like tolerable, dull, and inferior came up. One definition went on to say that the words mediocre and mediocrity tend to suggest disappointment. As that new widow almost 6 years ago, if I would have heard those words then, I would have felt that they were describing me. As I was grieving, fortunately, I knew I had to do something with it. So I attended Beau's place that supports people that are going through grief. Beau's mission states, "It is possible for bereaving families to continue their lives with hope, recovery, and growth." And as I attended my meetings over there week after week after week, that grew on my heart. I wanted to honor my husband's death. In 1 minute, our life was changed forever. And I would never have a chance to be present with Lewis again. I immediately began reminding everyone I met to enjoy each other, love each other, and encourage each other. And then I set out to find other widows. by encouraging each other and just sharing space in what may have become a stagnant life full of sadness, I was moved to an entirely different level of love, appreciation, and honoring people. I have a group of widows that encourage each other to share our experiences and encourage others to tend to their grief while they learn to live in tandem with joy and sorrow. I'm currently in training to be a facilitator at Bo's Place, and I'm making plans to start another group for more widows to gather. So without getting deeper into my story, I can tell you that I'm here today because in my early life, I had people that were very intentional with giving me time, encouragement, and love, even when I didn't want those things. The interesting thing is we all have the potential to do more than just settle, and it can look different for all of us. The surgeon that saves someone's life, the firefighter that pulls someone from a burning building, the store clerk that genuinely asks, "How are you today?" The garbage collector that smiles as he whisks away that smelly garbage. The child that moves a worm off of a sidewalk so it won't be stepped on. They all decided to challenge mediocrity. They all stepped up where someone else stood still. We don't always know the outcome of what we do. Over my 31 years of teaching, I can only pray that my observations led me to interactions with my students that created a positive impact on their life. When Books Between Kids allows children to pick their own books and take them home, they hope it makes an impact on their reading and self-esteem. When someone allows a grieving person to talk about one of life's scariest things, death, healing happens. So as I wrap up, I want you to consider, what would it look like if you stepped out of your norm, offered a hand, held a door, tied Adam's shoes, sat down to listen to someone's story, provide a resource to those who can't afford them or find them, to be a cheerleader, to step up when you know it's easier to step back. Imagine empowering someone to do something more than to just settle. You won't always do it perfectly. It truly is true. Jennifer said it. You have to fail to know that you've succeeded. I ask you, be an observer. Don't shy away from what you may see. And please be intentional. Thank you all for walking with me as we join each other to be the good in someone's day.
Thank you so much for sharing your inspirational words. I know everyone in this room is genuinely touched, and just thank you again. To follow up your amazing speech, I do have a question, and it starts with, I've always been told that if you don't fail, that means you're not trying. So what is your philosophy on failure?
Philosophy on failure. I don't think we fail. I really don't think we fail. I think when we learn from what doesn't go right, that leads us to our success. I encourage you, I encourage myself, I encourage all of you, I encourage all of us to just go out there. And when you fail, go get a group of people and say, why did I fail? What could I do differently? If we're failing as a group, we're working together. I don't really believe that there's ever a failure.
Thank you, Veena. Wow, wow, wow. I am very inspired, motivated. I feel like I should go do something very, very special right now. We have learned to focus on excellence. We have accomplished our goal of challenging mediocrity. Please give all the speakers a large round of applause. Okay, I would like to thank everyone once again for attending. This event would not be possible without each and every one of you challenging mediocrity. We will be doing our raffle in a minute or so. As we wrap up the event, let's talk about excellence in our university. From recently entering the Big 12 to a new medical school, law school building, being recognized as a Tier 1 research institution, and having the #1 entrepreneurship program in the country, our university dares to challenge mediocrity every single day. There is so much that we as UH Cougars should be proud of. Are you all ready to challenge mediocrity? I am. Let's do it together and make the world and ourselves better every single day and challenge mediocrity. Thank you.